always have to see if it's going live. That's the beauty of live. So welcome, Dr. Bryan Weinstein. This morning, I'm so excited to have you. Dr. Bryan Weinstein is board certified psychiatrist since 1997. I think we've known each other longer. I hate to give out secrets.
Right.
You've been in private practicing, offering psychopharmacology, and I'm reading that because I really wanted to hit that. I want to talk about what that, because you don't hear that, and I want to talk about exactly what that means. And supportive psychotherapy, as well as offering rehabilitation service for traumatic brain injury services. But really, you've really meshed a lot of business practices and services and businesses, because I'm going to throw some doctors under the bus here. You meet a lot of doctors, and they're not all great businessmen. I say that because I'm married to an attorney, and there are not a lot of all great attorneys are great businessmen. I commend you, because as a doctor, you are a tremendous businessman. You have these incredible business ideas. I've been able over the years to work with you. The sparks go off with these ideas. And so I'm so excited to talk to you about what you've done over the years and the different businesses, which I'm going to let you talk about. But now you put them all together under sort of one group called Mind Health Group. And a lot of it really boils down to this idea of how people need to rehabilitate their behaviors. And that's when we meet, that's really the focus that I think about. Because when you talk, sometimes I'm like, okay, narrow it down for us that didn't go to med school. So welcome. Thanks for being here. Bryan and I have gotten to work together. I've learned so much from you. So let's start with, what is psychopharmacology? Tell us this long word.
Well, it's just basically using medications, medication management to treat psychiatric illnesses, Sari. It's a big term. Psycho being, again, in the realm of psychiatry, psychological underpinnings, and, pharmacology is really medication management. So, for 25 years, I've utilized medications to kind of, retune people's brains when they have, aberrations in their inner biochemical environment in their brain.
I think that's so important because, we're obviously in the news and the Olympics, we're hearing all about mental health right now, but, and thank God we are. And I say that all the time and I hate that it takes a big athlete or a celebrity. It should take the normal, everyday child, parent, business person to just say, hey, I need help. And the truth of the matter is, our bodies are based on chemicals and balance. And sometimes we're not balanced. And it's okay, one, to go to a doctor, one, to seek help, to say I need help, but also not be afraid when a doctor says to you, I'm going to give you a prescription.
Right.
And I think there's, we know there's still this whole sort of essence of, oh God, I went to a doctor to seek help, but also that he gave me a prescription. We don't talk about it still. And I know within your field, we have to get over that. How do you deal with that with your own patients?
Yeah, I think it's, I think we're obviously, every generation is evolving, and we're becoming, of course, more accepting and more understanding of really everything, whether it's race, whether it's mental illness, whatever it is. It's just so, I know sometimes it can look like, mountains, beautiful mountains are created by earthquakes, right? So sometimes things can be rough, but, I see it in a positive manner. Again, whatever our society is going through, it's our society is going through eruptions and earthquakes to create a beautiful evolution. And again, whether it's mental illness or race or politics or whatever it might be, I see it as a positive. I don't see all the negatives. Unfortunately, that's what it takes to evolve and in any evolutionary process. So, mental health is just another thing that has evolved. You have to understand something very important, that when people suffer from mental illness, you don't see that, right? So if somebody broke a leg, they're in crutches, they're wearing a cast, and when they show up at the bank, you open the door for them because you can see that they're somewhat disabled, or when they're in a wheelchair, or right when or God forbid, when somebody has cancer and they've lost all their hair. I mean, we see a lot of physical illnesses. They're right in front of us, so we see it. We get to be we get to be good human beings and caring for other people. Mental illness you don't see. It doesn't wear a face. It doesn't wear a sign that says, "Hey, I'm suffering." And and the suffering from mental illness is profound, Sari. And so we just have to really embrace that, and it really is amazing. Somebody like Simone Biles, or I don't know if you're familiar with Naomi Osaka, a phenomenal tennis player who really didn't want to do interviews because she's probably struggling with some anxiety issues. And I don't think it's easy to minimize these things, but these things are really huge and profound and crippling and disabling. And so maybe what Naomi, I don't know, I've never talked to her, but maybe what Naomi experiences is equivalent to how one would experience having a gun pointed at them. This incredible crippling fear. So I think we have to just be very, very, I'm really impressed that these athletes are coming out and they're saying, wait a minute, this is what I struggle with. Because back in the day, in the 40s or 50s, athletes wouldn't do that, and they would just suck it up, and then they would probably go on and develop a nice case of alcoholism.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because there was a post on social media about a gymnast years ago, Carrie Straub, who like had a twisted ankle. And her coach was like, go, go. And she did it with one ankle. And everybody was applauding her bravery for going out there, and then another gymnast came forward and said, can you believe we all stood up and cheered her? Really how detrimental, what we needed to do was what we really need to do today, because we have, as you say, swung the pendulum to what we really need to do is cheer Simone Biles, and kids who are looking at her, or parents who are looking at her now, and saying, good for her, good for my child, seeing that, because kids do look at role models. And as you said, we don't see that. We see a broken arm, we see a broken leg, but we don't see a broken facade. We don't see what's going on behind the facade, I should say.
It's a broken brain.
Yeah.
So, it's a broken brain. It's a broken biochemistry, which is what I do with either psychotherapy or what I do with medications. It's biochemical connections in the brain, in the mind, creating various what we call neurotransmitters. And for anywhere up to 15 to 20% of the population, it can be broken. And to the degree that it's broken, that's an individual thing. But absolutely, the bravery that we should be applauding. We should be applauding Simone's bravery to look to, in the face of billions of people, in the expectations that they have on her, and for her to say, you may not see what I'm experiencing, but this is what I'm experiencing, and I'm not going to risk my life, because if she lets 5% of doubt creep into her performance, she could be paralyzed.
Well, and I think that what you say is so true. And I'm just going to take it down to, a kid who's studying for the bar exam. The normal, more like the normal kid, with that kind of anxiety, it's the same thing. If he lets any, that creeping in, he's done the same thing to himself in his world. And I think that it's really important. I say this all the time. You're right. We have to commend when someone comes forward, because we have to make that the norm to come forward.
Absolutely.
And so when kids see that, or parents see that, to have the conversation with their kids to say, how are you? We've just experienced a year and a half of kids being at home in their rooms studying. And, I think about, now we're about to say to kids, okay, now go back to school. It's all good.
Not all good.
It's not all good.
No.
They're about to experience, I haven't been there in a year. I've grown in a year. My body has changed. My mind is different, maturity levels. I think we can't just throw open the doors come September and go, great, pandemic's over. First of all, it's not. There's a lot. Boy, you're going to be busy.
Well, Sari, we also can't minimize the social aspects for these kids. So they're, stuck in a home. They got to be with their parents and their siblings a little longer than maybe they should be. They're not, to spend that level of time not socializing, not integrate, relating to others and being with others is really, traumatic. And there's definitely going to be fallout for that. These kids are going to, they do need to talk, they do need to cope, and they do need to get through that struggle. Is it the worst thing in all of humankind that they've been through? Maybe there's worse. I always try to remind my kids, at least you're not in the bunkers in World War I or World War II, and there's always worse. And I call it my therapy of relativity.
Right.
But
my kids get mad when I do that, though. I got to tell you.
You know what? It's important, Sari, that they know that you have to always say, as bad as I have it, it could be worse.
Yes.
And but that's not to minimize what we've all been through and what these kids have been through. It's not to minimize that, for sure. So
I know how busy you are, so I want to get to a big part of what I talked about, being an amazing doctor, but being an amazing business entrepreneur, because really that's what you've been over the years. Talk to me about some of the businesses that you've created and now housed, now really coming together and housing them into one, which makes it really, from someone who does marketing and PR, it's really nice to house under one roof, as they say.
Yeah. So I heard this term before. This is not original, but I guess I call myself a doctorpreneur. But yeah, I'm fascinated with business. I find business to be an art form. I love the fact that, you have to engage people. People have to come together to create a business. Kind of similar to a rock band, there's four or five people playing, individual instruments, but together they play this amazing music and make millions happy because of it. But they have to work together. And so, working with people and creating businesses have been fascinating for me. So I love business in terms of an art form, and I love business in terms of a psychological challenge, again, to get to get people on an executive team and on every level working together. Getting people to work together is not just the greatest challenge in business, but it's also the greatest reward, because again, the beautiful music that gets created after that. And I love business because, if you can scale, it means that, and you can grow your business, it means that you can reach more people. And the best part of medicine is that the business of medicine is that if you can scale medicine as a business, it means that you can have the capacity to reach out to more and more people. So the two, primary companies, my first company I created a while ago was, Advanced Behavioral Rehabilitation, which I know you're intimately familiar with. And it's a great company, and it's designed to really build, insight and awareness for people that get in trouble with the law, whether it's drinking and driving, whether it's substance abuse, retail theft, domestic violence. All these are really behaviors, and they're a manifest of underlying personality problems, underlying psychological problems, underlying psychiatric problems. Those are the real problems. And if we want to really look at rehabilitation from, which is why we started this company, we really have to design these classes to build insight for people so that people say, wait a minute, this isn't my problem that I drink and drive. My problem is, why did I drink and drive? Once we get to that part, Sari, we begin the curative aspect. We begin the process of healing, the process of insight, and that's where the real rehab and recovery takes place. So ABR is an amazing company because it does that with the court systems and with lawyers and with with the court systems and for lawyers to go out and get their clients to take our courses before they even get to the judge, so that we can potentially show the judge, hey, my client is already starting to get better and starting to look at what they did wrong. So that's super cool, right? And
I just want to say, because I have worked with ABR, and when I first came upon this, what I did love was exactly what this company is meant to do. It's meant to rehabilitate. It's meant to look at the behaviors. And you just said it. It's not meant to look, there's nobody in the world who would say drinking and driving is good. Like it's not meant to say, oh, you did this. It's meant to look why you did this. Why would you get behind a car? Why would you do drugs and get behind a car? Why would you walk into a store and steal? And I thought, not to say it's a simple idea, but the thought process of it is, before that, it's you did this, and so we're going to put you in jail, or we're going to give you this fine, or we're like, and the person then goes, and what do? They do it again.
Right.
Because that's what they know.
Well, that's right.
And nobody has said, can I help you? And I remember sitting in early meetings, just sort of blown away, saying, okay, you have a psychiatrist who says, I'm going to help people, and it's a business model, and we're going to teach them about what they're thinking before they go do an act. And I think like that's why I really dove in deep with this company from the beginning, because I wanted attorneys and judges and probation officers to know, like, wait, there's another way. Jail is not the answer. A fine, okay, maybe sometimes you have to have a fine, but it was to say, do you care about your client, attorney?
Right.
And so, and I know you're going to move on, but I want you to speak to the fact, just stay here for a minute, about that these were all in-person classes. But again, as a doctorpreneur, the times changed, the pandemic changed. And what did you do then?
So we built these courses into an online format.
Yeah.
And now we're able to affect and help millions more people, theoretically, right? So, we can take our same classes, the same insight-oriented type of classes, and we can affect so many more lives because of it. I mean, it's really, the pandemic is a terrible thing. Sometimes good things come out of bad things, right?
Right. And you're such a positive person, but that's one of the things I looked for during the pandemic. How do businesses reevaluate? How do they grow? And how do they continue to help people? And this was a prime example. You didn't stop. You were continuing to help people, but not only that, you were helping more people.
Right, correct. And then, and then we did the same thing with, the other companies. So I created 3 other companies in the mental health field. My psychiatry practice, which is Summit Psychiatry. Then we have an integrated pharmacy called Peak Pharmacy. And then we have a behavioral company that treats all behaviors in addition to traumatic brain injury called Life Skills Village. And we took all 3 companies, we created them as divisions, we unified them under one brand called Mind Health Group. And now we have the capacity to not only treat in a outpatient manner in a brick and mortar environment, but also online. So all of our psychiatry and much of our psychology is actually online. And I got to tell you, Sari, people ask me, well, are you treating at the same efficacy? And I said, I'm treating at a better efficacy. I'm able to treat my patients better online. And the reason why is, one, they're not anxious driving all the way to my office. I've saved them time. Patients don't have to drive to my office, and they don't have to sit in a waiting room with other, psychologically and somewhat, disabled people in a waiting room where everybody's kind of waiting for the doctor. And so it's a very anxiety provoking experience in a lot of ways, going to a doctor's office. They call it white coat syndrome. White coat syndrome is when your blood pressure just goes up just by going to the doctor's office.
100%. I think often I have that.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to a doctor and I'm like, oh, I don't have high blood pressure. And now I have it because I'm sitting here waiting, or I'm just anxious because I have other things to do. But
if you add anxiety to a paranoid person or to a depressed person or a psychotic individual, you actually worsen behavior. So I'm able to treat patients in the comfort of their own home. And it's just miraculous. And what's cool about Mind Health Group is that we have integrated all companies, so we all talk to each other. So it's multidisciplined. We have psychology, we have occupational therapy, we have speech, we have pharmacy, we have psychiatry, we have physician assistants, and everybody interacts together. And that's amazing. So no one's being treated in a vacuum with one discipline in an office and they're never talking to the other discipline. We all interact together. So it's a multidisciplined interactive company that is now able to treat, in an online experience virtually. And I'm right here. I'm right there. I'm fully available to you. And we're all available to you at Mind Health Group. And it's amazing. And we're completely communicative and we're all interacting, and it's really been wonderful.
Amazing. So I'm going to let you go because I know your day, but I have one last question. You may not have an answer, but let's see. What do you think's next for this company?
For Mind Health Group?
Yeah.
I just want to keep growing, and I will tell you that businesses have 2 choices. They can choose to follow the money, or they can choose, let me talk about medical businesses. They can choose to follow money, or they can choose to treat patients. So at Mind Health Group, everything I've ever done, Sari, I've just cared about people. It's why I went to med school. It's what gets me up in the day. It's what gives me purpose. And it's what fulfills me, is caring for people. And everybody that works with me feels the same way. We have the same mission. So I just want to take care of more and more people. There are so many people out there that struggle with mental illness, that cannot get help, that are completely disenfranchised, that don't know where to turn, that can't find a psychiatrist. Psychiatry is, very, very hard to find now. And so Mind Health Group is just going to grow, and we're just going to continue to treat as many patients as possible.
I love it. And I love that you've taken these businesses into Mind Health Group, because I think that you hit on something that was so smart in bringing them under one roof. Everybody is talking. So if you have someone in front of you and they need other services, they're right there now. And you have those services for your patients. And it's very true about you, is that you look at the person in front of you. And our health system had, for all the reasons, has sometimes grown away from that. And so, people have to still become advocates for themselves when they're talking with their doctors, and ask questions. And that's okay. But you're one to ask the questions too. So, You can come back anytime, you know that. For more information, you can go to chooseabr.com. But what I would recommend you do, you go to mindhealthgroup.com and you'll get all the answers there.
Right.
And Bryan, we will talk soon and often. Have a great rest of the week and enjoy your day. Thanks for spending time with me.
As well. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.